There we go. Okay, welcome everybody to this community session. Apologies for the delayed start and the change in Zoom links there. A slight issue with the previous Zoom series that basically prevented it from giving access for you all. But welcome. This is community session for February 2023. Before we jump in, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. If you've not seen me before, if you're new to the community, I've not been facilitating these community sessions in a while. I did early on, but haven't done recently. My name's Lee. I'm at Spotify. I've been working on Backstage open source since we open sourced it, but looking forward to seeing you all and getting a bit closer to the community again. Before we jump in, I wanted to first say thank you to this community. As you may or may not be aware, back in January, we didn't host a community event. And that was basically down to some changes that were happening on the Spotify side. Effectively in January, Spotify was impacted by layoffs and the Backstage teams were also impacted by that. So I just wanted to raise that. I don't want to hide away from it. Spotify is incredibly committed to this community. We are still here. We are still going strong. We still have hiccups like our Zoom meeting just now, but we're working on it. We want to continue to build this community. We're still going to be around. So I just wanted to highlight it just to say, yes, this happened. This is why we didn't have a community session last month, but we're incredibly committed to the community. And on that note, what a community. We have recently just passed 1,000 contributors in our community. So thank you everybody for taking part. Thank you for bringing all of this knowledge and wonderful kind of, it's a great community for being helpful and supporting each other and seeing all these really cool things happening. So thank you everybody for all of your hard work. You make this project what it is. This community is the most important thing that we've got. So thank you everybody. Happy to see we're over 1,000. Can't wait to hit the next 1,000. So for today's community meeting, we've got a bit of an agenda to go. So we're going to kick off in a second. I'm going to hand off to Mihai, who's going to give us a little bit of an update around the adoption SIG and what has been happening there. We've recently just had a release with a few things to highlight in there. We're then going to drop into some maintainer updates around the backend system and scaffolder. I'm bringing back the contributor spotlight. So we're going to do a little section there. And then towards the end, we're going to hand off to Himanshu, who's got some demos for us. So super excited. Don't want to keep us going slow. Let's move on. Adoption SIG. Mihai, over to you.
Sorry, Lee, if there's some people in the meeting room, waiting room that need to be admitted. Sorry. Okay, I will, Mihai, do you want to go and then I will find where that window has disappeared to.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks for calling that out then. Great to see you, everyone. Great to see you all again. I'm just to kick us off to start with, I'm just going to shed a quick light on the topics that were discussed in the last few adoption SIGs. Backend System Alpha and the Scaffolder Alpha have been two recurring topics, but I know there's more details on those in the next slide, so I'm just going to jump over those since more details are coming. There's been a demo and then consequently a plugin for entity validation UI that allows us to edit and validate the cataloging for YAML files. That was demoed. It's now part of the 111. Is it just me echoing or echoing a little bit, I think?
Marion Bell, I think, or a few people, sir. People are unmuted.
I got muted as well. I'm gonna keep talking while I'm muted. That's gonna go. Thank you, Zoom. Jokes aside, sorry, what was I? Yes, so the entity validation UI is now part of the 111 release that was that went out on the 14th of Feb. Thank you, Ivan, for adding all of that work and allowing us to validate those entities in the Backstage app. And now moving over, just wanted to touch base quickly on a couple of these new working groups that are sprouting from the main adoption SIG, which I think shows what is a good sign of how healthy the community is. Mainly, there are three of them that I wanted to quickly touch base on. First one, there's a newly SIG on Backstage microservice plugins working group that operates under the big adoption SIG umbrella. The goal is to discuss the deployment around the backend plugins as microservices. There's been a little bit of work done there on the backend extension system that will take us closer to having those backend plugins isolated. There's already been happening a meeting, and then there's a second follow-up meeting on this topic. I want to say at the end of the month, I think on the 28th, if I'm not wrong. So if you want to be part of that, let us know. Secondly, we are resurrecting and resurfacing the conversation about the opinionated catalog ingestion. As we know that the current, there's been a strong message around the current ingestion process of maintaining and adding those YAML files is not ideal, and it's kind of like slowing up the adoption. There's been a couple of great ideas that are coming out from the community, and we want to create that space to explore those. So there's another working group that's being tasked and formed there to sort of like explore the space. And then last but not least, there's a Backstage for Backstage, which kind of like whose goal is to add more resources for the Backstage community. The focus right now is to add functionality there that doesn't exist and doesn't have an overlap there with the Microsoft.io. And two of the features that I wanted to call out are the depicting a list of all the Backstage plugins that are published on the NPM registry. And then second, how to allow Scaffolder to create new plugins. That said, if you want to stay tuned for more, if you want to be part of this, the SIG adoption happens every other Thursday. And with that, I'll hand it off to, who am I handing this off to? Lee, is it back to you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mihai. Thank you for all of the updates. Sorry for muting you there and letting you carry on while muted. Okay, we're going to move swiftly on. I believe next we're going to have just a quick look at the release that has recently gone. So there was a few core changes that happened in the last release. We introduced the Backend System Alpha and the Scaffolder Alpha, and some new packages there that came along as well. The Backend System and the Scaffolder Alpha are what we're going to dive into with the maintainers in just a moment. And then I just wanted to call out as well, there was a bunch of new plugins, everything from Entity Feedback, Entity Validator, Microsoft Calendar, GraphQL Voyager, Linguist, and Lighthouse Backend joins the rest of the Lighthouse plugin there. So to dive into, I think it's Backend System, Preben, I think.
Yes. As mentioned, we just released an alpha version of what we call the new backend system sometimes. So this is a rethinking about how we wire things up in the backend. As you may have seen, your backend packages have a fair bit of code in them, and there tends to be a number of updates to that code that you need to perform during upgrades. From the learnings that we've gathered through the years, actual years we've been here now for a while, right? We designed a system that we hope everyone will find powerful and useful for making their backend code compact, scalable, understandable, and also making it possible to install plugins essentially as one-liners. It also clarifies the interaction patterns between both plugins and the services that they use, and your adaptations and extensions to these plugins. For example, if you add custom providers or actions to your scaffolder and so on, the patterns for doing so should now be locked down and nice and have a structure to them, making it more understandable and maintainable. This is in alpha, as mentioned, so it's not meant for production use in your actual backend, as in the code that you sort of deploy. But we do encourage you to give the system a look. You may start converting your plugins and services to the new system, so it's ready to be wired up using the new facilities that we've provided. We're super happy to get your feedback on this. We're very excited to get it out. And we worked pretty hard to hopefully make something that you'll find useful and nice. There are some linked resources down there. When we share the slides, eventually you can click them, but otherwise just go to the regular backstage.io and check out the documentation. There's a new backend system sidebar entry there. There's also an overview issue for the backend system that you can check out. It links out to a lot of resources about like how we did the development and what different steps have been taken, and links to PRs and so on, if you're curious about what happened behind the scenes. And that's it. Give it a spin and let us know what you think about it. That's it.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. And I think we're off to Ben next, right?
Yes, I could talk a little bit about the Scaffolder Alpha. So there's been a few names for this: Scaffolder Next, Scaffolder Alpha, Scaffolder V2. Kind of falls under one umbrella, which is kind of the next release of the Scaffolder plugin, or at least the front end part. A little bit of background why this work has been taking place is the initial front-end plugin was kind of growing sporadically, with a lot of contributions left, right, and center for the plugin. Obviously, different use cases, adoption of that plugin grew, and we've added some great stuff to it. But we were kind of getting to a point where there was a lot of stuff in there and not a lot of tests, I guess, which makes building on top of it kind of tricky. When adoption grows and people start using it, we want to still make sure that we've got a good plug-in there at the end. So we went back to basics a little bit, took a little bit of feedback from the community around the UI, and built it kind of from the ground up with tests. So there's a few changes that have been rolled into this too. One of which would be the bump of the underlying library, which is React JSON schema form. We've been waiting for this for a while, or we've been delaying kind of publicizing this, the alphabet, until that library went stable. So they had a few problems with version 4, I think, with support for Material UI v4. So we had to wait for v5, and that came breaking changes. And because we, when you're building field extensions, for instance, we kind of use those types that they export to, so you can write your own field extensions. That's where the breaking changes come. There is some documentation now, which has gone live with v1.11, which is basically a guide of how to test this out. So similar to the backend system, this is also an alpha. And I don't recommend you use it in production just yet, but if you can give it a try with your templates to make sure that all your templates still work as expected, that would be great. Yeah, again, there's some link stuff in the bottom, links to the documentation, and also we want feedback on it. So if there's things that are broken, things that feel weird, things that are not right, please either reach out to the Discord or create some GitHub issues and tag that issue, which is like the big overarching meta issue for us. Yeah, go run with it. It's pretty cool. Go have a look. Yeah,
thank you, dude. Excuse me. Thank you, dude. And last but by no means least, Mr. Johan, I believe we're handing over to you for Backstage IO Updates.
Yes, exactly. I'm not able to start my video, but I guess my voice will do just fine, so we'll stick with that. So quick update that we finally got a Backstage IO updated to the latest Dockersaurus version. For those of you who've been here in the past, we've been running with an ancient version that's like for the last couple of years, and it's been, let's say, tricky to update. But thanks to some great community work, especially from a guy named Carlos Esteban from VMware, we've been able to port the old site over to Dockersaurus 2, which means we'll get improved search, syntax highlighting now. You can there's buttons to copy code and so on. So there's a lot of nice features now that we get. And for those also, for those of you who are interested in contributing, making changes to the microsite, it should feel a lot more familiar now as well, since it's converted to TypeScript and React. So we just launched this today. So if you see things that doesn't look right, or you have some web skills you want to show up and get some open source karma, feel free to submit a PR to fix things. We're working on things that we discover while using the site as well. So there will be more updates coming, but it's live now. So it's nice to see. And everything resides in the Microsoft, or not Microsoft, microsite next folder in the Backstage repo, where you can find all the pages and so on. And you can run it locally with yarn start. If there is anything, like give us a shout out on Discord or open an issue in the microsite channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johan. Great stuff. Okay, what I wanted to do next is just bring back an old section that we used to do in the early days of the community sessions. I wanted to highlight the community, actually, and specifically one individual, Paul. Now, from what I can see, Paul, are you in the chat? I can't see you in there.
No, Paul. I checked with Paul. He's had to go take his kid pick up his kid from school. So
okay,
timing. He'll be on a little bit later.
Great stuff. Maybe we can come back later. Thank you for the update, Harrison. Yep, life happens. Life happens. But no, I wanted to just highlight Paul. He's been doing some fantastic work, squashing bugs, helping us and supporting us around particularly around the scaffolder more recently. So thank you, Paul. I know you're not here. This is being recorded, so maybe you'll get to see it later. So thank you for all of the hard work and everything you've been doing recently. And then in the mind of keeping it within the community, I want to hand it over to Himanshu, who's going to do us some demos this time. Mr. Himanshu, you should have permission to share your screen. I will stop sharing from my side. But over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lee. I'll just share. I prepared a few slides just to keep things in one place. So let me share. But yeah, I also have Deva with me. And we're going to do a demo of something that we're working on inside Harness. Hope you can see my screen. Awesome. Thank you all. Good to see some familiar faces and good to see some new faces. My name is Himanshu. I am a product manager at Harness. You might have seen me around in the Backstage community, and especially in these sessions. And with me is Deva.
Hi, I am Deva. I work with the community engineering team at Harness as a community engineer. Basically, it is a very newly formed team in Harness to evangelize our community works and to evangelize the best practices in software delivery. Harness being housed to some of the best open source projects you see, like Drone and CNCF incubated Litmus. The last part of the piece was to form a community around Harness and evangelize the work we do, and yeah, that's part of what my team does. And thanks to Himanshu in-house, we are now exploring Backstage as well. Yeah, over to you, Himanshu.
We'll definitely come to that. So yeah, just a quick intro of Harness. We are basically, our mission is to enable every software engineering team in the world to deliver code reliably, efficiently, and quickly to the user. So we have about 7 modules, ranging from whether you want to build your software or deploy your software or check costs associated with it, or do some security testing, do chaos engineering, all kinds of things. So the end-to-end software delivery lifecycle is our playground. And we've been in this industry for about 6 years. And recently, I would say mid last year, we noticed this trend with our customers. We're about 600 odd customers. And while talking to them, we realized that the developer portals space is rising there as well without any of our effort. And they are building their own portals. They are either they're going to a vendor and trying it out, but it's all happening. And the momentum is something we can feel. So we have about dozens of customers who already use Backstage, and for every X customer who is using, I think we can assume that there's 2-3X people who are just evaluating or struggling or something. So that's a trend we noticed, and something else that was common is that I think we all know that every developer portal is unique. everyone has their own flavor, everyone has their own sets of problems that they're solving, even if they use Backstage to build their developer portal. And there's, of course, like bigger brains putting in some predictions, like by 2025, 75% of orgs who have a platform engineering team will have a developer portal. So that's the trend we noticed, and we had to do something about it. So while in this conversation, we also noticed, admitting people just like old times, we also noticed there are two distinct personas when we talk to customers. And it's especially true in Backstage case. We have identified them as integrators, who basically the general term is platform engineering. The team who builds and operates the developer portals and are in charge of, let's say, enforcing the standards and providing more visibility into the software ecosystem. But the second, which is the larger base, is the end users, the developers. Now, like as you can see, the Harness's products are all around software delivery. We quickly realized that it's mostly the platform engineering team who are coming on to Harness to basically create a new deployment pipeline with all kinds of standards, governance, guardrails in place. But developers, they're happy in their own world. They just push code, see it getting deployed, and then job done. And this is what we heard is like from the customers who are using Backstage. Deva, is it you or some? I'm hearing a background noise, unfortunately. But we noticed that customers who already have Backstage, they just did not want their developers to leave their developer portal. And we kind of embraced it. We love the fact that like companies are using developer portals in the right manner. And even if we are Harness and we want customers to come, we don't actually, like if developers are happy and productive in their developer environment space, developer portal space, we are fine. That's why we decided to join the journey and then build plugins for Backstage. So each of the module that we have worked on and we are building, CI, CD, feature flags, cloud cost management, everything, we want developers to use them inside Backstage itself. And of course, platform engineering can come to Harness and do all the behind the scenes work, but Backstage kind of wins in developer experience space, and we want to ride along. So that's the vision. And then we have, as of now, we have launched 2 plugins, and the feature flags plugin, and you can see I built the slide last minute, CI/CD plugin that we have launched in December, and then feature flags is something we're currently building. So I would just like to do a quick demo. Move this here. Yeah, this is a typical Backstage instance where we're running it inside Harness. And then there's few entities in place. Of course, you can imagine the best place to put a plugin. And I'll talk more about how, when we think about building a plugin, like the harder problem is not how to build a plugin, but what actually to build. So should the CI/CD plugin be a separate one-page plugin, or should it be part of catalog? And the clear answer for CI/CD is catalog. So you have a service, and then you have a few, let's say for a service, you have created a pipeline inside Harness. Now, Harness pipelines usually are quite arbitrary. Like you don't necessarily need to have just one CI pipeline and a separate CD pipeline. You could be like have a pipeline with several steps, several custom steps. It's up to you. So the good thing about Backstage is that it provides the support for annotations. And that's how, like for every entity, we just connected one annotation for the entity with a project inside Harness. And then all the pipelines inside Harness, like they show up here. Of course, the recent execution show up here. You can also see the details of what got deployed, or if it's a CI pipeline, what got executed, their status, their time. Of course, you can jump directly into Harness. That's what I think is the Backstage philosophy, where like 90% of things that developers need to do, they should be able to do it inside Backstage. If they want to, do some extra thing, like go ahead, go visit the provider platform. It's perfectly fine. So yeah, this is our CI/CD plugin. It was quite simple to build, but of course it's a complex system. We had to change a bunch of APIs, and we'll share more about that. But I want to hand it over to Deva to talk about the feature flags plugin that we are working on.
Himanshu, could you please allow me to share my screen?
Sure. I think it has to be Lee who can give you host permission.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to share.
Yeah, it's is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay. So as Himanshu talked about, we have a CI/CD plugin in-house that has been released 2 months back now. And presently we are working on a feature flag plugins, which is based on the feature flag module we have in Harness. So basically feature flags gives you the number of feature flags that are present in a project, and the state of feature flags varies from a different environment within Harness. It was a bit challenging to use 2 APIs at once and keep that API calls timing within a limit that the developers don't get frustrated using our plugin. So yeah, it shows you the list of environments you have within the project, and you could change the environment and you see the state of feature flag change according to the new environment. It takes a few seconds to load because of obviously the way we are working, it's still in developing phase, and it gives you an idea about what feature is there, what's the state, and whether it's active, and if any pipeline is configured or not. So these are the very basic information which we figured out was required by individual developers while working on a particular project, and the usage of feature flags limits to this kind of information for developers, rather than going to a detailed module specific information which is not required every time. So yeah, the open source plugins that we are building inside Harness is basically enabling developers to give a holistic view within one single platform. Like if you are in Backstage Adapter and you are using Harness, there's a win-win situation for us, for both of us. And yeah, we will discuss a lot on what we learned. As we said, and Himanshu has already pointed out, we had API enhancements working on Backstage, and even now, we are learning how to handle our own APIs, building this plugin. So yeah, it's a great learning for us, and yeah, we are excited to even delve into feature flag, like the Backstage side of things, to improve and make it easier for people to adapt these things. So yeah, that was pretty much the demo on feature flags. We are planning to release it very soon. It's on testing, like few error handlings and all parts are getting done. Yeah.
So like everything in Backstage, it's not production ready. But even if we say it, people love to try things out as fast as possible. I love that. I would like to end with 3 key lessons that we learned so far in our journey with Backstage. So the first one is, am I sharing the right screen? Give me a thumbs up. Good. I think we realized that in the Backstage world, the how is easier than what. And like, thanks to all the platform tools that exist in Backstage, I've worked with engineers who built a plugin in 6 hours, and it's super functioning. They need a DB, they need a backend, they need a front end. It's super easy to build something, but what adds value to a developer portal inside a company is a difficult problem, and it often requires deep understanding of users, deep understanding of customers inside the company, and of course, so like during adoption, companies make this mistake that they just first look at the plugins marketplace and install a bunch of plugins without even realizing what is the problem they were trying to solve. Talking to customers, we realized that the Backstage obsession with customization is wonderful, is the key for them to go with Backstage compared to, let's say, 10, 12, software catalog providers, developer portal providers. There's many, offerings, many competitors to Backstage out there, but Backstage is, you can say in some sense, it's Linux. Like, have you seen the meme where, if you want to wish Linux happy birthday, you just give them flour and milk and everything, build your own cake. We don't care. So yeah, the same thing is in Backstage, like, having the ability to build custom plugins. The entire entity page is customizable. You have your own theme, you have your own homepage, you can create your own catalog homepage, you can add your own model, and the list just goes on and on. I've realized that everyone loves this, and that's the reason why Backstage won over any other offering when it comes to developer portals. And lastly, Deva was slightly touching upon is that our APIs are there, but the primary consumers of those APIs is the Harness UI. And thanks to this experience while building plugins, we had to kind of change a bunch of our APIs, ensure the performance is there, ensure the security is there, so that developers can come and use all of our features from Backstage itself. With that, I would like to end. You can visit us on Harness, and the repository is also on GitHub. Right, we can take questions. Otherwise, happy to take them on chat as well. Bye.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. That was awesome, and Deva for showing those. One question, a little bit about maybe you mentioned there Backstage being, you can shape it how you will almost, like Linux, as you said. Did that cause, that flexibility is awesome. Did it cause you any challenges on kind of settling on, like refining it down to, no, we're going to hit this problem, or we're going to hit that problem with this plugin?
Yeah, I think these problems have always been there. It's just hard to talk about them. I think like when we first started, it was all about where is the freaking docs, and now there's docs to do something, but it's just not complete. And then, hey, I don't know how to write React. I'm sorry, I'm a Kubernetes engineer. I've spent my life writing Java. I don't know about this Node.js. This entity page looks like a huge mess. I'm just trying to install a new plugin. Hey, just help me out. So these problems are there. And I think Backstage is super transparent about this, that you need to invest at least 3 to 5 engineers in a team to ensure you have a developer portal working and ensure it's solving the right set of problems. So that investment is the main problem. But with things like the new backend system, like the ability to install and remove plugins quite fast, and like with some kind of default configurations which just work out of the box, I think we have come far along compared to last year. So the problems are getting solved, but it's just hard to sometimes talk about them.
Cool. Thank you, dude. Thank you. Any other questions? Open up for anybody else.
I have a question. This came up in our internal thread. One of our teammates said, I'm a little confused. Doesn't a CI/CD plugin and feature flag compatibility already exist out of the box? What is different with this offering, if any?
Compatibility exists out of the box. I mean, of course, the features are there. The point of, so when you're looking at a company who is using, let's say, Harness, it's part of, let's say, 50 providers. Like, you're not coming to Harness for things that Datadog provides. You have your own Google Cloud, your AWS Cloud, you have your own, monitoring services. You have so many things that you could be using, right? So we're happy with being kind of one out of many things that customers are using. And that's the cognitive overload of developers when they have to actually go to multiple places and consume, a big dashboard with so many things. They're like, what is what is the minimum set of information you need when it comes to CI/CD? You probably just want to check the latest builds and whether or not they passed. That's it. That's it. Like if you want to dive deeper, go ahead. What happens when it comes to feature flags? You probably just want to see the list of feature flags and their state for your currently deployed service. That's it. You don't care about configuring them on a daily basis. And that's the whole vision of Backstage is, let's give you the view that you need on a daily basis and abstract everything behind the scenes. So of course, the harness module is far more richer than this plugin, but here's the simplified view. That's the purpose of developer portals.
Okay, thank you.
Any other last questions for Himanshu? Okay. Again, thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, Deva. It was great to see you, and thank you for sharing all the work that you've been doing there and everything. Again, just to bring attention back to the community, thank you everybody here. Thank you for bearing with us over the past couple of months as we've kind of rebalanced and refound our feet a little bit. That brings us to the end of the content for today's community session. The community sessions, we have collapsed them back to one a month. You will see an agenda issue come out over the coming week into GitHub, where you'll be able to sign up if there's something you want to demo or share. To highlight as well, as Jen is saying in the chat there is also a new dedicated LinkedIn channel for Backstage and Spotify, if you want to find out a few bits more information there too. We'll be back next month around the same week. We're going to follow the old contributor calendar invites for a schedule. So 1 month from now, we'll be back. Again, you can find the agenda for the next session go live in GitHub over the next week. Look forward to seeing you all again next time. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, everyone.